Zage Jana La Janju Bada Nani Gazashi Nage Jinye Give Samaki Drola Bunje Sanje Numashu Chada Zage Jana La Janju Bada Nani Gazashi Nage Jinye Give Samaki Drola Bunje Sanje Numashu Chada Zage Jana La Janju Bada Nani Gazashi Nage Jinye Give Samaki Drola Bunje Sanje Numashu. I'm really glad and happy to again meet with you again, have this gathering. As I have mentioned regularly, when a separate, the fact that we are, feeling joyful on both sides to meet again is because when we separated in our last meeting in our last year, it was also in a joyful and happy sort of state of mind. So thus that when there's a joyous, happy separation, then a reunification can also be joyful and happy. So I mentioned this because this is something which could be quite useful to remember even in everyday life situation. So thus this is really shows the importance of our state of mind, because a happy and joyous sort of when you're in a happy joyous state of mind, when the separation takes place, then as mentioned earlier, naturally because of that positive state of mind, then a meeting again, coming together again, would ensure a joyous and happy reunion again. So this really relates to the importance of having in a positive state of mind, to be in a positive state of mind. That is really what is.
I think that's it.
So these are essential points in our in our everyday existence, because we do have to relate to others, we have to associate with others. That is part of our, we have to coexist with others. So thus having a good connection and relationship with the other is really quite essential to one's own well-being. So as mentioned earlier, while we associate and have connection with others, there's bound to be times when we have to go separate ways. There are times when we would have to separate. But if that separation takes place in a mutual sort of good sort of in a good faith and good feeling towards each other, then as mentioned earlier, that will ensure that when there's a separation, that means that there can also be a meeting again, coming together again, and then that coming together would be a joyous one. So to give yet another example, when going to bed, if we were to have a, be in a positive and happy state of mind when going to bed, then that is more likely to ensure that when we wake up, we'll be in a happy and positive state of mind. So if one wakes up in a happy and positive state of mind, that in turn helps to have a more better day. That the day unfolds to be more meaningful. So this is something we can see. So likewise in a work environment, as most of us have to have jobs, regular jobs. In the work, whatever work one is engaging in, when at the end of the day, if you have felt good and you feel good about what you have done at work and have a happy sort of mind, sort of like satisfied with what you have done, then that is more likely that will encourage you to come back to work next day, in a happy state of mind. And then furthermore, we can also use the examples of children who, at the end of the year, when they finish school, if they've had a good, if they've really enjoyed school and had a good time at school, then although they look forward to the break, then when it comes back time to starting school again, they'll be really excited and wanting to go back to school. I know a few. I've got a few close associates who, when they have related to me, the children were like they couldn't sleep in the night because they were so excited to go to school again. So the main point that I'm emphasizing here is how it actually our situation around us is very much dependent on a state of mind, and particularly in a positive and happy state of mind. So if one wishes to have a more meaningful and happy life, it does depend on the state of our mind that we are in, that will ensure what kind of happy life. So so as to the question as to what is really the meaning of one's life, my interpretation or my sort of my definition of what I see as being the meaning of life is having a meaningful life is a life that where one is able to contribute to others, to lead a more positive, how should we say, a life where one is kind towards others, that one is engages in one has good character, good behaviors, and that's exhibiting good gestures towards others, and having a positive, leading a life which is has a positive element. That I would see as having a meaningful life, or the essence of life. So relating it back again to the gathering that we have here, it again also we need to reflect on its purpose. The actual really purpose is that we wish to achieve something meaningful for oneself.
소선 대화를 문제바 세상을 다 샤카르나 되 소선 대화를 문제바 세 체들에 아주 샤카르 되래.
So the purpose really, again, in essence, is that we all wish to fulfill something, for ourselves. We have certain wishes that we would like to fulfill, and certain things that we would like to discard, and how should we say, unfavorable things that we would like to get rid of. So this is, in fact, true for anything that we wish to do. So this natural inclination we have of wanting to fulfill our wishes and not wanting to experience any unfavorable conditions or circumstances, if we were to question further, like where does that wish come from? Where does that intention come from? It is clearly because of that strong sense of me or I that we have. At the very core, we have this sort of very strong interest. How should we say? We have this very strong identity or notion of me or I, and because of that strong sense of I or me that what follows from that is certain things that I wish for and certain things that I do not wish for. So this is thus if one were to have to question, like, why do we want to be happy? Why don't wish to suffer? It is again because we have a sense of I, because we have a sense of individual me or I. It is because of that. There's no other sophisticated reason that one needs to give. So these wishes that we naturally have, that we wish to fulfill, and certain things that we want to discard. If we were to summarize all of this again into what is it that we ultimately wish for, it comes again into a simple way. It can be defined as being happiness. And what we wish to discard is any sense of misery, what we call sufferings. So thus, in essence, this is really all wishes that we have, the wishes that we want to fulfill can be summarized into being really the end result being happiness, and what we want to get rid of is suffering. So while we strive to obtain our happiness, where we might be taking a wrong turn is where, for most ordinary people, we have this natural inclination that happiness, the source of happiness, lies outside, in things that we can see, the good conditions, favorable conditions that we see out there, external things, that if we were to achieve that, if we were to acquire these good conditions, then that will make one happy. So this is something that we have a very strong, deep sort of rooted sort of belief that this is so. So because of this very strong belief that we have, we can see that, in fact, because of this strong belief, then there's a lot of effort put into acquiring these good external conditions. And so therefore, we can see that, in fact, most people in the world, they're busy and busy with trying to achieve this goal of getting the good external conditions. And that is what really consumes most of the time. So thus, in putting, as mentioned earlier, a lot of time and energy, putting a lot of effort in acquiring these good external conditions, there's a varied results of achieving that for individuals, depending on either the methods which are used, depending on the skills that are had. While there's maybe same amount of effort and energy put by many, that what is acquired, what is obtained from that can be varied. So that's the different individuals gain different levels of external comforts and good conditions. So if now the question is whether we need these good external conditions, then the answer is that definitely yes. We definitely need to have the good external conditions for our well-being. So the reason why we do need the good external conditions is because if we were to if we were to look into the levels of happiness that we can experience, mainly there's two: the physical happiness, our physical well-being, and mental happiness and well-being. So the external good conditions contribute mainly to our physical well-being and happiness. So while these external conditions contribute somewhat to our physical well-being and happiness, if we were to now go to the next level as to whether the good external conditions contribute to mental happiness, may perhaps to a certain small degree they can contribute to a certain level of mental happiness, but actually it can in contrast hinder our mental happiness. It can actually obstruct to gain genuine sense of mental happiness too. So if we will look into these two levels of happiness as to which is more sort of, I should say, more important for oneself, the physical and mental happiness. The mental happiness is obviously much more important for our well-being. So when we begin to recognize the importance of our mental happiness and well-being, then that recognition, that sort of awareness that we develop will then be able to initiate one to look into finding the means, the proper means to acquire mental happiness, while not neglecting, entirely neglecting, or that how should you say, the external good conditions that we require. At the same time, really looking into the proper methods and means to achieve mental happiness. So, when we then further, when we look into what is causing a lack of mental happiness, or how should we say, the turmoil within oneself, the distress that we experience mentally, when we look into what is causing that, and if you really look within, by contemplating and looking within oneself, one will come to recognize that the real cause for one's mental distress also lies within oneself, not externally, but rather within one's own mind.
Yeah.
So now expanding a bit further on what actually causes the distress within our mind, to name a few of these mental attitudes that we hold on to, which causes mental distress. So this is true for whether someone is, has abundant wealth or not, someone just who are who doesn't have much wealth. This sort of attitude would be shared by, most common people, which is that in relation to those who, in relation to oneself, those who seem to be better than oneself, who have more or better in any way, one starts to develop some sort of unease in one's mind and feeling jealous towards them. Whereas for those who seem to, one perceives as being equal to oneself, one has a sense of competitiveness, one feels competitive with them. Whereas for those who are lowly, a little bit, who are less privileged than oneself, one may develop a sense of pride in relation to them. So these are the states of the negative state of mind, what we call, that cause one distress. So, to further to illustrate how it causes one distress, is that when by, as mentioned earlier, those who one perceives as being better off than oneself, who are doing better than oneself, one develops a mind of jealousy towards them, and sort of unhappy mind towards them, and feeling jealous towards them, and thus they would start to appear as being, how should you say, someone who sort of one sees as being disagreeable, and so they appear then that is how they appear, as like an enemy to oneself. Then likewise, for those that one is having a competitive sort of attitude towards, they also are someone that are disagreeable to one, and then appear as being like an enemy. And then for those who are underprivileged, or less privileged than oneself, they, because of sort of like sense of contempt towards them, it causes them unhappiness in their mind. When anyone who feels that others are being snobbish and being like proud causes their mind distress. So thus, because of one's attitude towards them, it causes them unhappiness, and then they also turn out to be like an enemy. So it is in this way that one sees that how harboring such sentiments and attitudes actually causes so much distress and harm for oneself as well as for others. Thus, really, if we were to really think about this carefully, it becomes really quite apparent that this is how this is so.
She said, Tombochiana, Rolly Shin the Twashian, called her child, Ronnie, young one, just said, when the man one chest at the language, my dad the chest at the language, the little son.
So, if we were to again further, look into, what are the, main sources for this harboring such, ill states of mind or ill sentiments that cause distress to one's mind, it would really come down to these, these things, which is either being it is either in relation to external wealth or external conditions, superficial conditions as beauty, or it could be like knowledge. And so in relation to these worldly concerns of just wealth and beauty and knowledge, that is these how should we say, by being attracted or desire towards that causes one to feel jealous to those who have more wealth than oneself, who are more beautiful than oneself, who seem to have more knowledge oneself, and then feeling competitive to those who seem to be have equal wealth or beauty or knowledge than oneself, and then feeling contempt and proud for those who have less. So this is how we can see that how this comes from. So then thus if if the efforts one puts into acquiring the external good conditions that, as mentioned earlier, we perceive as being a source of our happiness, if actually that pursuit was done in such a way where it does not cause afflictions to arise in our mind, the term affliction or delusion is an umbrella term of that encompasses all of these the sources of all of these, how should we say, ill sentiments that we mentioned earlier, greed and so forth. So if our efforts to acquire the good external conditions does not become a cause for the afflictions to rise in the mind, then while pursuing the external conditions and acquiring good external conditions, it will not become a cause to disturb and bring distress to our mind, and thus we would have definitely benefited. It will definitely contribute to not only immediate well-being and happiness, but will not disturb our inner state of mind for disturbing our inner happiness and mental happiness as well. So this is what we need to.
소소 선 레세 오는 돈은 소소 못하는 레소 소소 세 체세 오는 돈은 엄마라 체세 맞아 오는 돈은 롤라 못하는 거 다만 쉬서.
So thus, if by acknowledging through acknowledging this, when one through acknowledging this, if one thus takes then the initiative to employ methods to not allow one's mind to be completely influenced or controlled by minds of jealousy, jealousy towards others, others' well-being, and not allowing our mind to be swayed or influenced by a sense of competitiveness towards those who appear to be equal, and then also not allowing our mind to be swayed by sense of contempt and pride towards those who are less privileged than oneself. So if one protects one's mind in that way, then one will prevent these causes for distress in our mind. So thus, if one does not allow the mind to harbor and harbor and follow such ill states of mind, then one would have a happy state of mind. So that recognition is really essential for one's well-being, as once we use our intelligence and wisdom to fully understand and acknowledge that, then we have got the key to our own happiness within ourselves, within our own reach. So thus, this is something really essential. So if one finds that there's a tendency to follow such, to be swayed by such sentiments, ill wills, as mentioned earlier, then if one needs to then thus recognize that is so because of an uncontrolled mind, and an uncontrolled mind. Also another term that we use is an unsubdued mind, which means that if the mind is controlled by the afflictions rather than being under one's own control, then for as long as the mind is controlled by the afflictions or the delusions, then to that extent the mind will be experience unhappiness. So that is the main trend. So this is where thus the technique of meditation comes in. So meditation is thus a method or technique that helps to gain real control over one's mind, to help subdue one's mind.
Geshe chebe yechi yare, kisho the man on Geshe mechebe yechi yara, then pass on to Naya, Nagatavan, the same woman. Chese chebe yete, pa jechi, chese then, Moshe yes and the lead and sechi, then I Nagatavan, and then the man yard here about gossip, Nangasan, gossip, lead is a head. The watch is on test on to the head.
So, to then further understand how the meditation technique works to bring about more subdued mind or controlled mind is that is understood when one begins to understand that understands that there are definitely antidotes for overcoming certain negative states of mind, to relate to again those particular examples we used earlier, such as jealous mind. When one is feeling jealousy, it is in relation to an object that we are focusing on that how should we say, instills sort of a mind of jealousy within ourselves. So for as long as we focus on that object that causes us jealousy, and we use all the reasons that come along with that, then our mind will be consumed by jealousy. So therefore, therefore, if the moment one chooses an object and another object that does not cause jealousy to arise, and then thus by choosing an object to focus on that does not cause jealousy to arise, when we maintain our focus on that, then the earlier state of mind of jealousy will subside. And then furthermore, such as similarly, when we have a sense of competitiveness with others, it is again also in relation to an object that causes the sentiment of feeling competitive towards them. So when we change the object of our focus and focus on another object that does not cause competitiveness to arise within ourselves, then this sense of competitiveness which others subsides. Likewise, similarly with the object of contempt, if we change our object and focus on another object, then the mind of contempt will subside. So it is in this way that, in very simple terms, this is how the meditation works. Meditation practice or technique works is by intentionally shifting our focus and choosing to focus on something more positive rather than that which causes the afflictions to arise. So, as mentioned earlier, relating to one of the earlier points I made, is that the meaning of our life is to extend kindness and benefit towards others. So that really we can say that essential is one of the essential meanings of life is to benefit others. So this then, what I've just explained earlier just now, also relates to that. So now to further explain how when we what are the conditions then to instill a real genuine mind of wishing to benefit others. What kind of conditions do we need? Conditions or methods are there that we can cultivate in order to generate a genuine sense of wish to benefiting others. So thus, here the two main essential conditions or methods for that one can cultivate is called love and compassion. So love is particularly a sentiment of whereby when we see others who are deprived of happiness, wishing them to be genuinely wishing them to be happy. That is what is defined as love, whereas compassion is a state of mind which by seeing others who are experiencing suffering, when one by not being able to bear seeing them to suffer and wishing them to be really free from the suffering, that is then the sentiment of compassion, the state of mind of compassion. So these two are the most essential conditions. So thus, the more we familiarize our mind with love and compassion, or cultivating love and compassion, the more we become familiar with that, the more we, that love and compassion becomes instilled within ourselves firmly. To that extent, it will remove these ill wills that we mentioned earlier, such as jealousy, jealousy towards others, a sense of competitiveness, and contempt towards others. Because when one has a true sense of love and compassion for someone, there's no way that one can, at the same time feel jealous towards them, or a sense of competitiveness or contempt towards them. So this is how that serves as an antidote for overcoming these ill wills. So, to use an example of how when one has this real strong sense of love towards someone, that there'd be no way that a mind of jealousy arises, or the other ill wills can arise. We can, those who are parents will definitely be a good example, would know that when you have genuine sense of love towards your children, you want the best for them. You want everything to be well for them. So when things go well for your children, it brings joy to your mind rather than jealousy. It brings joy in your mind. There's no sense of competitiveness with your children when you genuinely want them to be well. It only brings joy and happiness in your mind to see them doing well. So this is just one example we can use of how, even in a contemporary sense, that how when one develops a sentiment of really wishing the other to be happy and things to go well for them, the sentiments of jealousy, of competitiveness, and contempt cannot arise towards them, towards others. So it is in this way that we can see that how it is really a state of mind. As mentioned earlier, it's dependent on our attitude or state of mind of how we feel towards others, our sentiments towards others. When we have a more positive mind, it nullifies the ill wills towards others. So that's when we see how love and compassion is really essential for developing these positive state of minds, in a genuine sense of to really harbor these positive state of minds that towards others, and that's how it helps one's own mind. Then, with that recognition, we will be able to see that how love and compassion is really very precious, precious state of minds, in inner qualities. Actually, in fact, they are like priceless inner qualities that we can have.
Yeah.
So practically developing, cultivating a true sense of love and compassion can be exhibited, or needs to be exhibited, to those who are surround oneself, who are in close contact with in our everyday life situation, be it a partner or and so forth. So thus, as I regularly share, in relation to your close companion or friend, partner, if you when there's mutual sense of love and compassion, then that fosters a genuinely good relationship. That fosters trust within the relationship, and in a harmonious relationship. So this is how then that good relationship, based on a true sense of love and compassion for each other, will be a source for a happy relationship. That brings then in turn more happy. It brings on an ordinary level, that is the happiness that we can gain. It's from having a good relationship with the other, and by having mutual trust in each other. That can bring about genuine happiness. And so the reason why it actually serves as a condition for happiness is because it is through that such a friend or partner that one has, that has love and compassion towards oneself, that how should we say, that brings about a sense of happiness within oneself. It helps to. The reason why it serves to bring about happiness is because it contributes to bring about the favorable things that we wish for, as mentioned earlier, and alleviating those things, unfavorable things that one does not wish for. So, as mentioned earlier, in summary, we all want favorable conditions and do not wish to experience any unfavorable conditions. So when there is someone who contributes to bringing about favorable conditions for oneself and removing unwanted and unfavorable conditions, then such a person is really a worthy person. Like who could be more worthy than someone who helps to contribute to bringing about these favorable conditions for oneself and alleviating unfavorable conditions. So such a friend or such a a companion would be really one of the best friend, a good friend. So now extending further than one's immediate companion or friend, when one relates it to others, a wider to go on expanding further to relating it to actually all other living creatures, living beings, it is definitely possible to develop a sense of love and compassion towards all living beings. So the best method or a technique for helping to develop or cultivate that sense of love and compassion towards all other beings is by simply thinking about these thinking about these factors, about how just like oneself, just like one has this natural inclination, natural wish to be happy and does not wish to experience any suffering, it is also exactly the same for all other living beings. There's no living being, no creature who would not wish naturally to be happy and who do not wish to experience suffering. So thus, in that way, we can see that how we are all equal in that way. So then, that by contemplating on that, one will come to, it will help them to develop a sense of real compassion, love and compassion towards others as well.
lucky 생긴 줄 왜 아이들 lucky 얘나 같은 바보 새도 좀 먼저 늘 내가 대마다 맨에서 내가 나 내고 나 나삼 나 좀 나 내고 있어 늘 가봐서는 늘 대본 나 되고 있어요 새도 그런 늘 좀 먼저 왔어는 저거 대고에 나 되고 있어요 먼저 저거 나가면 나 나가 있어요 먼저 맞아요. 오늘 리센이 셀 먼저 나래. 내일 먼저 온 나래. 내가 먼저 서서다 리센이 손도 가다. 야. 다 손 들리던 하고 내가 해.
So that's so when such a person who embodies love and compassion, who cultivates and thus embodies love and compassion, will be a person of what we, as mentioned earlier, of a good character, someone who exhibits, good behavior and appropriate behaviors, and in fact, they'll be really appealing. Even their physical appearance would be really appealing towards others, and thus naturally it'll attract others towards them. People really appreciate them because of their true sense of love and compassion for others. Naturally, others are naturally drawn towards them and appreciate them. So actually, not only humans who can recognize that, but actually even animals are definitely are attracted to such such individuals who exhibit true love and compassion towards others. So it is in this way that, in fact, it is the Buddha, our incomparably kind teacher, the Buddha had mentioned that when someone truly cultivates and then develops love and compassion in their heart to the extent of really exhibiting that, naturally, then it is a cause for them to be really beautiful, to really be appealing. So these are some of the qualities, and because they're very appealing and beautiful, naturally others are attracted to them, and then it is in that way they can actually serve to benefit the others. So that's really, in essence, what I'm saying is that a happy mind comes really from a positive state of mind, and so within the positive state of mind, the most positive state of mind is, as mentioned earlier, developing a sense of love and compassion within oneself. So these are this is something that we naturally have. We naturally have the basis for love and compassion. It is a matter of further developing it, and we can manage. We all have a capacity to further develop love and compassion. Of course, it may require some time, some effort to develop it further. But slowly, as we engage in the practice of developing love and compassion, we can definitely achieve that. So, and then that is, once one has established a true sense of love and compassion within oneself, then that becomes the real source, the real basis for one to have a happy life, as mentioned earlier. And so, and this is again something that we need to, think about as to what really is the source and cause of our happy life. When, as I mentioned regularly, it's not wealth. When someone asks you how you're doing, they don't point around to their belongings and saying, "Oh, I'm happy because all of the things that I have." They usually respond by saying, "Oh, I'm in good physical health. I have a good sound mind." And so it is in relation to their physical body, the well-being of their physical body and mind, that they would contribute to being happy. So this is really, a very good factor for us to consider. So we don't point out to external things as a cause for our happiness, but we rather point towards ourselves, one's own state of being, one's physical body, good sound health physically, and a good, happy, sound mind. So this is so that's when people, when they talk about really their good health and good sound mind, that is when they would say, "Oh, I'm very lucky." That's how the term lucky comes from, having really the good conditions for one's well-being and a genuine sense of happiness. So also furthermore, one does not point to friends for one's happiness. It may contribute somewhat to one's happiness, but one's own sense of joy within oneself cannot be given to by our friends. It cannot be shared by our friends. This is something that we need to cultivate within ourselves. So thus really again it really lies within the source. The real condition for our happiness lies within our own mind. This is the main point.
가리나 나만 세지에 사전에 걸 넘겨서 나다 리데세도 좀 되려다. 나 레디아자 리스트 거. 여기 트제 있는 거. 세디아자 세스 거. 레세 대화 문양이 저도 리스트 거도 세스 거도 이제 다 상태. 세스야들 당연히 주는지 달전 세스야들 당연히 주는 뭐야 될래요. 리스야들가 첫째 정보를 내요. 당연히 릴 첫째 정보식이 리스고. 세수세는 세 첫째 정보세는 모두 세님은 오늘 먼저 왔다 세수나 근데 something on the
So thus on a personal level, beginning with one's own well-being and happiness, that is our responsibility. Our primary responsibility is first to take care of ourselves, to have the conditions for a genuine sense of happiness within oneself, and that is related again to only two aspects within ourselves, which is our good sound body and a good sound mind. And so if one has a good if one has a combination of having a good healthy body and a good healthy mind, then that will then ensure one's own happiness. So thus, and so what are the conditions that we need to acquire for good sound body and mind? Namely, for good sound body, we need to have we need to be mindful of our health. Adopt those conditions which are favorable to our health and discard those which are harmful to our health. And that is really essentially how we take care of our body. And with our mind, acquiring the conditions for having a positive state of mind, developing those, further developing those positive qualities within one's mind, and discarding the negative states of mind, what is mentioned earlier as the afflictions. So working towards that is how we secure our own happiness. So thus since good sound body and a good sound mind is what contributes to our well-being and happiness, we need to further reflect and contemplate on how this is something which is achievable. We have the means. It is not something which is beyond our reach. We have these conditions for to have a good sound body and a good sound mind is something which is within our reach. It is a matter of recognizing them and applying them to really applying them to oneself. So that is something, as mentioned earlier, becomes our responsibility. So there are numerous good conditions to protect our physical body, or in relation to our physical health. There's so many things we can see, so we don't have to really. I don't need to elaborate on that at all. However, for the conditions for having a positive, good mind is what is being primarily presenting here is, in essence, what we call the meditation practice. So again, relating to the need of our external conditions for well-being, particularly with physical well-being, it seems quite obvious that for those who have good conditions, external conditions, it does contribute definitely for one's having a long life, a better condition, a better, more healthier and long life, because for someone who's deprived of the good external conditions, then they would, because they lack the natural resources and good nourishment and so forth, it does affect their health. And then if when someone which doesn't have good external conditions actually falls ill, to acquire the conditions to get proper treatment and so forth is they're less advantaged than the rest. So whereas when one has the good conditions, it is one is able to utilize those external conditions to one's for one's health and so forth. So this is how I said, as I mentioned earlier, it is important.
I need money. You say that you got that money, such we do, Loju Apoisi. And then you got to say, you need to Kajima is so my. I got you more money, but say, God, I said, I know children something get your money. You have to let her,
so thus, as I regularly share with the younger generation, I say that for you, it's really important that you also pay attention in securing, taking an interest in your studies and acquiring the right skills to be able to save a bit of money. It is not to just sort of like squander whatever you get, but to try to be able to save a bit of money, because that is something that in your future would be really useful for you, very necessary for your well-being. Likewise, meanwhile, as you acquire the skills and embark in getting conditions for acquiring the external means, also at the same time, if you can pay attention to working on your mind, taking some interest in meditation and applying that in your daily life, it will help to protect your mind to be happy. So these combination then would be useful for you. So I also further mentioned that it's in very simple and practical ways, and I have sort of in gesturing, I say that as it is important that whilst you engage in your daily works and so forth, you may see your bank account start to become bigger, but as the money increases in your bank account, it is important to check whether the happiness in your mind is increasing as well or not. If the happiness is not increasing in your mind, then just the bank account starting to increase with more money, that in itself will not really secure, be sufficient for your happiness and well-being in life. So thus it is very important to just periodically check. As one is being busy with one's life and acquiring external means, is one's happiness in one's mind? Does one have the conditions for that, the proper secured those proper conditions for one's happiness in mind or not? That is something also equally important to check. So I've also shared stories of how I've got I've met a few wealthy people, and some have come up to me and confided in me that although they have a certain amount of wealth, they're not really feeling happy inside. So thus I've shared with the youngsters, as you endeavor to get some wealth in your life, it'll be good not to come up to a point where you say that where you can claim that you have a bit of wealth, quite a sufficient amount of wealth, but not really happy inside, and that it would be unfortunate. So it is good that you have now. You can embark on your in your life journey, preparing from now. So, having mentioned that the meditation is really a technique or method for acquiring a genuine sense of happiness in one's mind, and that it is a method to help to subdue one's mind, get more control of one's mind. With that understanding, then it's good for us to maybe spend a few minutes in actual meditation, formal meditation. When one engages in meditation practice, one needs to, one needs to have something to anchor one's mind, to steady, to be able to keep a awareness in our mind, and so that in order to keep certain of the awareness in our mind, we have to be focusing on something rather than just being completely blank. We need to anchor our mind on a particular object that we choose to focus on. So that is what is called as a meditational object, that appropriate object that we choose. So then, furthermore, in our normal state of mind, when we are not, fully aware of our state of mind, our mind is most usually completely distracted, is wandering off in every direction, and so thus, in order to apply this meditation technique, one needs to be fully aware of one's state of mind and intentionally withdraw from focusing on any kind of form of distraction, whether it be external or internal, completely withdraw from all, mental preoccupation or what you call busyness, and thus then bring our mind focus inward first. So having brought the focus of our mind inward, then we place it upon the actual meditation object, the chosen appropriate object to focus on, which in our case for our meditation now, we can choose our own breath to focus on. So while it is, so it is based on our breath, and so thus the actual breathing, it is said to be, needs to be a natural breathing where we're not sort of breathing in forcefully or breathing out forcefully, but come to a very natural rhythm of a breath. And based on this very natural, calm breathing, then our focus is placed upon the breath itself. So imagining to see the breath coming and going out. And just so therefore, for the next few minutes, when we apply this meditation technique, it is important that we be fully aware, putting a 100% focus on the breath itself and nothing else. And so that's, for the next few minutes, we will adopt this. So, although I intended to explain a bit more about the specific instructions about this sitting posture for meditation, and then the actual meditation technique in more detail. Of course, today I seem to have sidetracked it a bit, maybe, perhaps, but however, it's all kind of related. But in our future sessions, for those who are interested, can come along, and I can share that on our future sessions. So for today, before we end the session, if there's any questions you might have, if you want to have a question.
If, in the sense of, if you have developing a contempt for an object, if you remove the contempt because you change what you're focusing on, is that, from a certain perspective, not dealing with the contempt directly? In the sense that, how do you look at the object of contempt and at the same time look at it, change the contempt in you, rather than necessarily
just changing the object.
Yeah.
So the question, in case of people who need to listen to it later, if by focusing on another object rather than the object of contempt, wouldn't that be like not dealing with the contempt itself, the object, and avoiding it? Yeah. Dagi di kengi di anzogi pena that chado inare di that shena keso chegi the lo ko mebajik chaya chido lo pa migba pa peni koran pena that keso rojina the ngage dan keso kesa lo koran yu koran mami waji shambaj la miba cheni ani ko ngage des jamgre son ral no re that ina ko tia de la ditigore that di chewa ina koran yu koran la taji cheni ani ngage ke de kharis ke gido yu koran la pa 제조 체니 angagi 깨단 칸데 게기도 가르지는 게기도 쓰니 유 코로나 단제요 돈에 제조 체나 아니 고 느바체라고 좀 말을 했고
no 이제 코로나 다지야 이제 코로나 가는 해야 가는 시에서 가서 시행은 됐어 이제 코로나 다 코로나 시에 이제 도와주면
So in order to really deal with overcoming contempt, it is not so much on focusing on the object object that you feel contempt towards, but rather checking the mind itself, the mind, the subject, rather than the object, the subjective mind, to really investigate and like how does why does contempt arise towards this object? Where does it stem from? What is the nature of contempt? So that investigation can be employed as a further meditative object. So, in fact, whenever discursive thoughts or concepts arise during meditation, there is a technique of just observing those discursive thoughts, rather than, as you might have said, like avoiding them, actually facing them and looking at them, and then investigating these discursive thoughts themselves. Then, by doing so, it can help again for the discursive concepts or conceptual thoughts to actually subside. So there's that technique. So, to take another particular example of an afflictive state of mind, such as anger, there are techniques of which advises to actually, in order to, as a way to understand the nature of anger, to actually instill an anger mind. First, bring about sort of an angry mind, and then as anger starts to to develop within oneself, then at that point, using one investigation as to like, so okay, what is the nature of anger? Now, how does it arise? So if this anger were to become more manifest, and if I were to act upon this anger, what would the consequences be? And in this way, thinking about the faults or disadvantages of anger, one can then help one better to not succumb to anger, not to be completely consumed or controlled by anger. So that is also similar method. So thus by so using this method and technique, it's helpful to if one can recognize the faults and disadvantages of anger, because by thinking about the faults, then it'll help to prevent one from enacting anger, Yeah. And anger, it's because anger itself will subside.
Yeah.
Applying that technique work with excitement of the mind as well, instead of being a negative, sometimes the positive can be if I'm excited about something and really, getting myself a little bit ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm.
In those thoughts, when I go to meditation, will I apply the same as I would with anger as excitement?
샘디 배 하장 퇴와 자우든데 고바기 다 차도 자우시니 배 샘이야 슈지 배 여러 땅에서 excitement 나다 슈지 칼라 간난다 슈지다 샘다 배 하장 야 고백이 라신 침바이나 딜라양 단다기 디나시 고바 정말도 고바세죠로
고바는 거지 고바생 거지 잡히셔도
no no so excitement is said to be actually, excitement arises stemming from desire, from attachment or desire. So that's how it's explained, first of all. No. Of course, just 되게 공동어 그런 단이 공동마시야 나시 단다 다 그베 셈자오지라 따지니 코로나 된데 제주 채나 코로나 마시야라 탑실라 팽겨 나세요. So, in fact, yes, when the mind is excited, if you just follow whatever excitement is causing it to be excited and just follow that, then it just accelerates further. But if you were to choose to focus on the excitement itself, as mentioned earlier with anger, just observing what is excitement, what is the nature of excitement, then definitely one is bringing one's focus within. And using that as a sort of like an object to focus on, so it definitely can help the mind to subside. So when excitement is presented as a particular obstacle or obstruction to meditation, then it's specifically the excitement is so thus it is a specific state of mind which is caused by excitement. Caused by desire, attachment or desire. Whilst there can be other distractions in our meditation, but may not be necessarily excitement. So thus, so when excitement arises in the mind that stems from desire, are there some other techniques which are employed in the teachings are to contemplate on the transient nature of what is causing excitement, like that things are impermanent and transient, and also the nature of thinking about sort of like suffering a bit, because the mind of excitement is such that it is a heightened state, and a little bit overly heightened state of mind. So in order to bring down that very heightened state of mind, something which is maybe more solemn would be to think about the sufferings, nature of suffering, or impermanence. That can help also the mind to bring that very heightened state of mind to come and make it a little bit, So that might be sufficient for today. So thanks for the questions. Very good. So I'm not implying that I gave good answers to them, but they definitely were good questions. So however, I did attempt to give you the answers with the best intentions. What we'll call. So, before we conclude the session, if we can just spend a few minutes again in meditation, this time again bringing our focus within, as opposed to a completely distracted mind. Bring our focus within, and this time we can choose as an object to focus on while the mantra or the name of Buddha Shakyamuni is recited. We just focus on the sound and keep that focus on that. And when the recitation subsides, then just to keep an inner focus for a few moments.
Geelong.